Well, that was an impromptu, quick call up from the bullpen, that's for sure. Mr. Ian Reed, it is good to see you. I need to change your title screen because this is quite ad hoc. But Ian, how are you doing this evening?
I'm finally here. It's good.
Yeah, we're finally here, and we're finally talking this game. Um, and quite honestly, a game that the Sharks, of course, lost 4-2 against the Avalanche, but I think the greater picture here to me, Ian, is this is a little bit of a team that's starting to find some spark for each other. I think this was a gut check kind of game, and while they failed on the scoreboard, I really do look at this game as a building block and a character kind of builder type game. What do you see from it, and do you see the same?
Yeah, I mean, I thought this game it didn't end very well, but I thought like there was definitely things in this game that I liked. I really liked the Sharks' second period. I liked parts of the third, although it very quickly went off the rails. I found. Um, I thought Kaapo had a really good game. So there's a lot of little things that I liked. Overall, I mean, it. I think the score bared out the fact that this is a not good team playing what by record is the best team in the league right now. And I think that showed by the end of the game. But there is, the Sharks for a long time in this game, they didn't go quietly until the end, and then everything kind of just went off the rails. I think really, I think after the Kadri hit, I felt like the game kind of really went off the rails at that point, and the Sharks just couldn't get back on.
Yeah,
But up
and
until
just
that point, the Sharks, like, I give them a lot of credit, man. They hung. They hung in a game that they probably had no business hanging in.
yeah, that's for sure. And we'll go over a quick recap for everybody in case you missed it or in case you're just catching back up with us. Puck Guy just had some technical difficulties. Computer just kind of logged him out of Skype and logged him out of the software. So, Puck Guy, close all the Chrome tabs, dude. But we kid. Don't give him too much grief on the AOL guys. But we'll go over a quick recap of the scoring for this game. In that first period, the Avalanche really came out and dominated territorially. I mean, shots were 16-7 in favor of the Colorado Avalanche. I thought actually in the first 5 minute segment of the game, the Sharks looked like they had a little bit of jump, looked like they were weathering the Colorado quickness well, but then it really was in that later center 10 minutes of the frame where I just go, yeah, that's a tired team, and that looks like a team coming off of a back-to-back. Ian, I don't know if you saw anything different there, but star of the show is Kaapo Kakkonen,
Yeah,
just saving the fort there.
yeah. I mean, Kaapo there's a lot of things I really like about his game, right? Like long term, like I again, it's an incredibly small sample size, but everything I've seen from Kaapo Kakkonen so far in Teal, I really liked. I think again, like, he came in and did what James Reimer has done for this team all year, and that's he kept them in the game. He gave them a chance to be in a game that they could have had no business being in after the first. Like there's a lot of things like Kaapo Kakkonen, he's not the biggest goalie, but he plays well positionally. Like really like him positionally. I like the way that he moves around. Like again, much like James Reimer, he's not all squirrely in the net. He doesn't waste a lot of movement, right? He's
Efficient in movement.
very efficient in his movement. His rebound control is, I mean, for a Sharks perspective, I mean, we don't even know what rebound control is. So
Oh
to
my
see a
God,
goalie that has,
you were not like, if you were here, Ian, sitting in my living room, you'd be listening to. Oh my God, we finally have a goaltender who doesn't shoot out rebounds. I mean, I tell you what, it's a breath of fresh air. But not only that, to me, this is one of those games where you look at it and you go, he put his mark on this game. Like, if you're gonna say, okay, who's gonna be the head horse jockeying for that number one goaltending spot, to me right now, Kaapo Kähkönen has inside lead with just the first 2 starts I've seen from him.
Right. It's you don't want to get too carried away because it is just a couple starts, right? And it is a small sample size. But
I mean, 46 shots on net tonight.
Yeah, I mean, making a few games worth of saves in a game. But again, like the early results on Kaapo Kähkönen, I really, really like them so far, And it's going to be really interesting to see what the Sharks do this summer, because if they want to be competitive, yeah, like they say, like obviously that's the plan, right? The plan is to obviously try to return to contention, right or wrong.
It has to be with what they've done. It has to be with
what they've done, right or wrong. Like I'm not saying like, do I think this is a plan that's going to be, nothing but great success? No, I think it's a ridiculous plan that's probably going to potentially set this franchise back half a decade. But that's the road they're on. So it's going to be really interesting this summer when they've got 3 goalies to try and figure out what they're going to do with. Like, you have to figure someone's got to go. So is it James Reimer, who, if you want to be competitive, like it's hard to imagine, would you really want to enter next season without James Reimer after what he's done this season? Now, granted, there's no guarantee that James Reimer is going to repeat what he did this season, right?
Well, I have two questions for you, and I'm going to pose them to you this way. First question being, is Kaapo Kähkönen going to be a Pecorine type load carrier where we imagine him being a 70+ game starter? If we see that from him, then I'm okay with trading Hill away and letting Reimer be the security blanket in a 15 to 18 game kind of start stint. That's all I am asking from him, and from next season. If he gets 20 starts, then that's gravy.
But if you come and that's the thing. Like, so what do you do with Adin Hill, right? Like, do you sell Adin Hill for pennies on the dollar after what you gave up to get him? Like, I don't think that would be the worst thing in the world.
Question 2 is, if we then say, okay, maybe Kaapo Kähkönen isn't going to be a elite load bearer, like generational type goalie load bearer.
I don't think he's that.
Yeah. Then do we want to play a 1A, 1B type situation in goal? Because if we want it to be a goaltender type shootout, to me, the best way is to have 2 young bucks, both of them bucking at each other to one-up each other, because that is going to raise the entire floor of what you're going to get. If you are wanting more of a safety net and bringing Kaapo Kähkönen into, hey, this is your net now. You're king of the nets in Sharkland. If that's what you want to anoint him as, then I think you keep Reimer and you say, okay, kid, here's your 60+ starts, 65+ starts. Go at him. But if you don't think you're going to get that, I'd say you keep Hill. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, I don't see. That's the tricky thing, right? Because I mean, obviously, like, look at and the other thing that you have to keep in mind here too, right? And I don't think I've liked again what Kähkönen is saying, but if we're talking like, I'm not comfortable saying, okay, let's give this guy 70 starts. I think you could split the starts between him and whichever goalie you keep, whether that be James Reimer or Adin Hill. The thing with James Reimer is, like, James Reimer's a stopgap, right? Now, I love James Reimer. I've done nothing but praise James Reimer on this podcast all season, but he's a stopgap. So, I mean, like, that should, like, the bar to take over as the starter for this team means you have to outplay James Reimer. That's the way I would do it.
Yeah.
Which obviously would leave Adin Hill, hypothetically, the odd man out here, right?
Yeah, carrying the pail of water. But I think you also have to look at investment of resources, which, it was a little bit. I mean, there were, second round pick isn't anything, but I think the other thing that I looked at though is the age. And
Well, that's it. Like like James Reimer is here for a good time, not a long time.
there you go. There you go. And yeah, AJ bringing it up in the chat. Thank you, AJ. Joe Will's already said that they won't take 3 goalies.
Well, here's the other thing too, right? Like the other thing you have to keep in mind too is the cap's only going up by $1 million.
Right.
Kaapo Kakinen's due a new contract. If he has basically the same body of work that Aiden Neal had when he got his contract, so he's obviously probably going to get something similar this summer. Like I can't see the Sharks grabbing this guy, getting the RFA rights and then not qualifying him. So he's obviously going to get a deal. Can you spend that much money on 3 goals? Like, I know it's not a lot of money individually because they're all making like what, $1 million, $2.5 million, but
it adds up.
$2.5 million. That's what I'm saying, right? Like 3 guys. That's a lot for a guy that you're not going to dress every night. So some dead cap,
and a roster.
It's
a roster space.
It's a roster spot, and it's dead cap, and you have to give other guys raises too, and you somehow have to figure out what you're going to do so you can pay Timo Meier. Like, so it doesn't make a lot of sense to go in next season with 3 goalies. Not really. Okay,
well, perfect segue there from the Timo Meier and Timo getting paid. I mean, he's just adding more and more bank. We go into that second period. Alex Newhook does break through, making it 1-0 Colorado, and then you thought, okay, you know what? The Colorado Avalanche are going to put this thing, and they're going to put it in overdrive and tilt the ice this way. But, Kaapo Kakinен doing a great job standing up to 12 shots this time from Colorado. San Jose did outshoot them 15-12. But Timo cashing in on a Herculean effort from Tomas Hertl, driving the net, cutting to the center, getting that puck over while he's getting pulled to the ice. Timo just laser focused, top of the net. Nothing the goaltender could do there, and it was just a play of beauty, and that's why you keep those two together, and that's why I say don't break up the eights. Don't break them up. Don't do it. Don't think about doing it. You just keep those two together, and then next year let them be a miniature Draisaitl. It's Draisaitl McDavid-esque, and I won't even say it's like they're holding the jock straps, but it's just our version of the top winger and center, and they should be together.
I mean, it was a good response by the Sharks, right? Like, again, I think the one thing that I really liked about the Sharks game tonight was they punched back. Again, they're playing the second of back-to-back nights. They didn't have exactly the greatest night in Arizona the night before. So, I mean, I give them a lot of credit for the way they punched back and kept pace in this game.
And somebody bringing it up too in the chat. Thank you so much, Alex Barabanov, doing yeoman's work on that line as well. And I joked around on the DMs. It's like, look, I didn't realize he had such slick mitts because we saw him dance around in a phone booth in that second period, and it's like, okay, the kid is tough for a Russian, and look. I don't expect a lot. They're more of a skilled type of player. That's kind of always been their bag.
Yeah.
But he's tough. He's gritty. He's not afraid to go into the boards. But then he pulls out slick mitts like that, and it's like the effort's also there. Okay, you're checking the boxes for me here. I'm seeing it with the eye test. I'm sure his analytics are going to be, driving play as well. Sign the man. Sign the man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what's going on there. I can't help. I have to imagine that this is the guy the Sharks want to bring back. I just wonder what the price point is that Barabanov's camp wants, because I think there is a point where I get a little bit nervous about that, because again, like
$9 million over 3 years, 3x3, or
I'd be fine with that. I'd be absolutely fine with that. I just wonder if he tries to go a little bit north of that, and it just makes me so nervous, man, because again, like, we've had guys that have come in and had really good seasons and then got paid off for really good seasons and then fell off a cliff. And I'm not saying that's going to happen to Barabanov, but man, the Sharks have been burned by that a lot. So it makes me a little apprehensive.
For me, my maximum is got to keep it under $4 million. That is my absolute ceiling for him. And look, if the man wants 3 years, $12 million, I mean that's I think at the max palatable that I would look at giving him, and I think what's fair is about 3.5 at 3 and call it a day. I mean, I think that's what I would put on the table, and who knows where the ball is actually, and we don't know what kind of figures they're talking about. They could be looking at who knows who they're looking at as comparables. But
no, and that's the other thing too. And and PG48 in the chat breaking a very good point. Like we don't know where the Evander Kane thing's going to land. We don't know what impact that's going to have on the cap next season. If it's going to have any impact, we don't know where that is. So there could be that could be a factor too in that extension not getting signed. I have to imagine the Sharks have to at least be. I mean, I would feel the way I look at it, I'd feel very confident about things if I am the Sharks in this situation. But like, you can't, you have to plan for every
contingency.
Yeah.
In that third period, going into that third period, the Sharks had some really good, had the feel goods there, because through 2 periods, they had kept the scoring down to a minimum, and it's a 1-1 tie. Even in the beginning of the third period, I thought that the team did kind of shell up a little bit, but I liked their counterattacks. I think what I thought was telling about it was every time that Colorado kind of pitched them down for 2 to 3 shifts, you'd get 1 or 2 of these breakout shifts from the Sharks where they would just go down and really kind of try to tie the game up, and that's kind of what happened. Darren Helm gets a 6 on the season. Nichushkin with the assist there, and he'd get that 3 minutes 5 seconds into that third period, but Brent Burns kind of coming back on that on one of those counterattacks gets a goal off of a face-off play. They had driven play down on a counterattack, got the whistle, drew the face-off back. Burnsy just had one of those seeing eye shots, and the game's tied up again, and you're thinking, okay, the Sharks are pound for pound going with these guys.
Again, like every punch that the Colorado Avalanche threw, the Sharks had an answer. I want to talk about the goal against the Sharks though.
The first, the Darren Helm goal.
This second one, the
Rantanen power play.
The whole mess with the first one. Let's talk about that one with the Erik Carlson and Milosh. So riddle me this, okay? Because I know there's a lot of heat in the chat tonight. Erik Carlson's not everyone's favorite player tonight. Here's my question though, and
I think it's -6 in the last 11 games and 5 points in the last 11 games. A -6 in that time, I think, is a stat that was flown tonight.
That was the stat flown tonight. Okay, but this is my question: why is Erik Carlson playing on his offside if you're just gonna put him with fucking Nicholas Milosh? Like, what are we doing?
You're not putting him in a position to succeed. That is for sure.
Like, I don't like, and I'm not. I'm not trying to make excuses here, because again, I said it on Twitter after Milosh was just bumblefucking around the zone.
Tonight was probably his weakest game we've seen from him.
Brutal game. But so I don't understand why. I understand if you're gonna play him on his offside, if you're gonna play him with Merkley shift in, shift out. But of course we can't do that, because someone has to be accountable for when the Sharks do something dumb. Right? So we play him with Nick Milosh. And look, I feel bad beating up Nick Milosh, right? Because he's a guy from the Guy Factory. We know this.
He's overachieved, quite frankly. I think overachieved.
Maybe a little bit.
I mean, I did not expect the amount of game time he's had this season. I casted him as the 8th guy on the depth chart.
Yeah, I mean, man, I'm not a fan of either him or and I think Magna's another guy too, right? And obviously with injuries, they're playing much further up the lineup than they should be, right, and they're being exposed. But I don't understand. Nick Milosh isn't even good on his good side, so why are we playing I don't understand. I feel like some of the moves that Bob Boughner makes, he sends the Sharks out there with an arm tied behind their back, and somehow they make it, they make it work and they get competitive because they've gotten just stupid goaltending this year. Just stupid good. Like, their goaltending has been their saving grace most of the year. And again, like, does Erik Carlson have to be better on the play? Absolutely. I'm not disputing that, but I don't understand how, like, on the broadcast, it's like, oh my God, Erik Carlson, look at that. Well, Milosh bumble fucks around the zone. Like, he's not taking a man. He's just kind of skating in like this with like a fucking deer in the headlights look. And that's fine. That gets a pass. Like, I don't understand.
I saw a lot of guys bumbling on their skates tonight, and I wonder if it wasn't a result as to last night's ice and how shitty it was, and I wonder if it fucked up a lot of their blades, because I saw Timo tonight, the puck explode on his stick multiple times. Like, he was making bumbles that I don't normally see from him. Then you see Merkley blow another tire, the same skate.
I don't know what's going on with him tonight.
Yeah. And then Erik Carlson, again, having issues. So I'm wondering if maybe the equipment guy, they just didn't have enough turnaround time. They got in so late. Who knows what it was?
I don't know, man.
But I'm still that ice last night was just so dangerous, and it would not surprise me if they fucked up skates last night. So whatever. That's my conspiracy theory.
It's spring in climates where spring's actually warm, not here.
Yeah. So anyhow, I mean, look, on that play, it was a cluster F, and I totally agree with you. You're having a coach in Bob Bugner who is not setting up his players for success, and these are players that are kind of like Ferraris, where, look, a Ferrari is a very performance-intensive machine. You got to do a lot of necessary steps for it in order to perform like a Ferrari, meaning you got to baby it, you got to give it with a pair, you got to pair it with a nice, steady, stay-at-home kind of guy, and you need to be playing the guys on their right sides of their, their sticks.
I don't know, man. It just makes no sense to me. What it is, what it is, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I thought, I liked, but on the second Sharks goal, I really liked Brent Burns' game tonight. I thought, for the most part, he was pretty good. Like, I had very little issues with his game tonight.
Then you get the backbreaker, Mikko Rantanen with his 34th goal. I mean, they were playing with fire. You go against the number one power play 3 times. The Sharks, look, they have the third best. They have the third best penalty kill, but that's a lot to ask for from even them. And
I didn't even, and
the call was horrible. Like, the actual was a makeup. It was the makeup from Kadri.
For sure. Yeah. Because I didn't like that. I was like, I guess that's a slash. I had to watch it like 3 times and be like, okay, I guess that's a slash. Okay.
The problem that I had with it, and I'm going to set it up a little bit this way, and I was kind of roasting it in the DMs a little bit because I was saying, look, this is all on the reffing. We have seen so much slip by in the last week with the reffing. I feel like they're already going into playoff mode here. And because of that, tonight, guys were taking liberties with each other, and it finally bubbled over into that. Now, mind you, Timo is trying to do his best there. He's trying to get a hit back because they had been bruising on.
Yeah, I know, like, that's kind of where again, I said earlier in the show, like, that's really where the game kind of went off the rails for the Sharks, was after the Kadri hit.
Yeah.
And I get why Kadri's upset there, right? Because again, like, Kadri's not, like, when you're on the ice, obviously you don't get to watch the 7 replays in slow-mo from 6 angles, right? Like, he's just on the ice and he just feels like he got hit like he got headhunted by Timo Meier. Do I think Timo Meier intentionally went and headhunted Kadri? No.
Was he trying to hit him? Yeah, he was absolutely trying to hit him.
Of course he was trying to hit, but was he trying to hit him in the head? No, but did he hit him in the head? Absolutely. Like, if I'm Kadri, I can understand, why he gets so angry at that play. Because again, like, as far as he can tell, Timo hit him in the head, and he's not wrong. Timo did hit him in the head. Was it especially egregious or dirty play? No, I don't think so. I think it was just a series of unfortunate events that kind of just,
And Kadri's head, let's also not forget, Kadri's head at this point was already below the dasher. And when your head is riding that low already on the boards, I already cringe up because somebody's hip is going to come flying into your head, somebody's elbow is going to fly into your head, somebody's, skate blade or stick blade or, the hilt of the stick, whatever. I mean, once you get your head down in that zone, that's kind of like the danger zone, and he was there. And you're going to take the lumps, and that's what happened. And again, I blame it on reffing for not, taking care of the liberties up front. Then I go to look, these guys are now sorting it on the ice for each other. And 3, you're absolutely right. It was an unfortunate set of circumstances that happened to the play. Egregiously going out of his way to headhunt? No. Incidental, and did it hit his head? Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like I said, if I'm Nazem Kadri and I don't have the benefit of I'm pissed off. I get hit like that, I'm gonna get pissed off for sure. Because again, all I know is I got hit in the head, and we're not supposed to hit each other in the head.
Yeah. And then of course, on this ensuing power play, the Sharks they just break on that one, and it's a tic-tac-toe. Mikko Rantanen just sitting on the side of the net, and Kaapo Kakkonen doing the splits.
What, you can't ask much more. Like, I don't really have any issue with any of the goals that Kakkonen allowed tonight.
Yeah. Maybe the Burajovsky goal at the very end, but at that point the game came off the rails. So I don't.
The game was so far off the rails at that point. I don't put any, like, again, I think, this was the effort that Kakkonen put in tonight is, it was very James Reimer-esque in the way that, again, like, the Sharks were allowed to hang around in this game for probably longer than they should have been. And, they were able to punch back, because every time they went down by a goal, they were able to punch back. Like, obviously, eventually that luck ran out, but without Kakkonen's play, like, this game's a laugher.
Yeah. And guys, for everybody in the chat, let's not roast each other about skating mechanics and stuff like that. The only thing that I'm trying to just illustrate and highlight is we've seen in the last 2 to 3 games key defensive plays and mistakes happening in their own zone because clearly skating issues. Also, we've seen a lot of whiff shots lately too. So again, you're trying to put 2 and 2 together here. I'm not saying that that's exactly what's happening. Who knows? Maybe they're fighting through injury. Everybody's going through something, or
who knows,
or
it's the end of the season. Yeah.
Jesus Christ, maybe the tape job was a little off today, or they didn't, give the fried chicken to Jobu just the exact right way. Who knows? But I'm not a superstitious person, maybe, but that being said, the Sharks, put up a valiant effort in the loss tonight. The Avalanche prevail 4-2, and again, to me, this was one of those morale inspiring type losses where these guys shouldn't hang their heads. They left everything on the ice that they could. Their goaltender, they've got the makings of the goaltender of the future, and you can see that there's hope. There's finally hope in the back of the nets instead of hindrance in the back of the nets.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that, again, this year, night and day from last year, right? As far as goaltending goes, completely just night and day. I think the only unfortunate thing is that, for as good as Kakkonen's been in the 2 games, but like, he doesn't have a W for either of those yet, and that's unfortunate. So hopefully, he can get one of those before this is all done.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, I think Timo and Hertl continue to amass the points, and I think it's just going to continue to give them confidence going into next season. I really do think that this could start to blossom, both of these two, keeping them together into possibly point per game players next year. Really, really going for above an 80-point season for the both of them next year. That's what I'd love to see the end of this season add to the confidence and adding to the confidence of that line too as well, because Barabanov has just been a revelation with those two. Now you look at Logan and you look at, okay, what does Logan need now to succeed? It's clear that Logan needs a partner here. I mean, because you thought, one said number 9 was supposed to be that partner for him. Now he doesn't have that winger. He needs a power driving winger with him. Because I'm seeing it more and more this year, Ian, that the physical effects of him having to draw number 1 matchups is kind of getting to him a little bit this year. I feel like he's grounded down, and I think we see that in the points reflected this year as well. He's facing more and more tougher challenges and less resources to fight that with.
Yeah, I think it's hard, right? Because when you don't have like the weapons that he has, he's done, I don't think Couture's had as bad a season as a lot of people have ragged on him for, but
given the matchups, I don't disagree with that statement either. I think that's correct.
But yeah, I think it would be nice, the Sharks, it's hard when what was his line tonight? He was with
Balsers and
Balsers
at some point. I think also what Gregor got a look, Nieto got a look.
It's hard, right? When you have when you don't really have the guns to kind of separate, to kind of filter down right now, and that's where the Sharks are at right now, right? They've got guys. There's guys that I really like on this team, but when your line mates are, obviously you don't want to split up Hertl and Marks. That they've been just dynamite this year together, right? So it's when you don't have that other guy that can be on Couture's line, it's unfortunate for Couture, I think. But I think he's done. I'm not super sour on Couture this year. I know some people are. I'm not there.
Yeah, I definitely subscribe to the Hitchcockian model where he loved to have 2 stud pairs going together, and then he would interchange that third winger. Where he had his 2 base guys together, he had his core pair on the line, whether it be a Hertl and a Meyer, or a Couture and a EK9 or whatever have you. But he would have that model where he'd have 2 consistent guys together and then interchange a third winger. And what was nice about that was you could put a Jordan Kyrou, or you could put a young kid up and somebody who could blossom with 2 stud guys, and kind of it gives them a little bit of extra space. So people are asking, well, what isn't that going to be Eki? When Eki gets it here next year? Unfortunately, I think for me, I want to see a more physical guy to help take the physical load off of Logan. So I want a big mobile wrecking ball type player to help give Couture a little bit more ice to work with. That's what I want to see for Logan, because when he gets a little bit of because he's very good in the slot. When he gets his time and space in the slot, he's got a wicked shot, and I think we could see his goal scoring go up if he just got a little bit more space in that slot. And you need a bulldozer.
Yeah,
that's why Chloe worked so well with them.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing too is, again, right? I think this is where another problem I think with Couture too is that Sharks have had a lot of trouble getting the zone, right? And I think that's really hurt Couture this year as well. And I'm not saying that's completely not on him at all. He has to.
But when his line, when his line is on the ice, they do get blown out on the boards. They're susceptible with the board play.
Yeah, it's hard to you find a lot of when Couture's lines, I thought the thing with Couture's line tonight was there was a lot of one and done plays.
Yep, they couldn't drive the possession. Once they got into the zone, it just burnt out. It just burnt out, and I totally get you there. And to me, that's why I'd like a little bit of a line shaker, a shit stir on that kind of line. You know what I mean? Just somebody like a little bit of
I'd
pepper.
Like a healthy blue line too, because I think that would help a lot. Because if look, The other problem is obviously like without Brent Burns. Like again, I thought Brent Burns had a pretty decent game tonight. With Eric Carlson, like these guys have to be like when the Sharks need their defense to kind of activate in order to get in the zone and not have to spend so much time just trying to get the zone. And I think a healthy blue line would probably help Couture a lot more too, because then there'd be a lot more decent players on the blue line to help push that play to the other end. Good first passes, good breakouts. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I think that would help a lot too.
Hey, Shaka. Yeah, I mean, we have kind of lamented at the loss, yes, but I think we've also tried to take both the positives and the negatives out of this one. I think we've seen some good growth. I think we've really highlighted goaltending and really talked about the growth of Hertl and Meyer together. And for me, kind of, the next outlooks that I go looking towards I don't know, who's the next kind of up and comer you want to see from the Barracuda get their next shot, Ian?
I'm surprised that I keep saying this, but I'm really surprised that Joachim Blichfeld hasn't gotten a look. And I'm just gonna keep saying that until it happens. Like, and again, like,
hey, they should have brought him up today.
At this point, here's the problem, right? At this point, like, the chances of Joachim Blichfeld becoming an NHL are pretty slim at this point, because he's so far out of his draft. But again, like, he's a guy that, he had an 8-game look or whatever, and it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I feel like he's a guy that I would give a shot to, just because what the hell do you have to lose at this point, right? But I want him up here instead of a guy like Chmelevski, a guy who's got a little more rope left? Probably not. So I go back and forth on this a lot. I wish Joachim Blichfeld would get at least just a tiny look.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, you're going to have a couple of them. One emotional reunion. One reunion we could just take the sour note out of our mouths at this point. But, on the second, we do have, Joe Pav 8 coming in. And, well, of course, not 8 on Dallas, but, we'll know and love him for number 8 here. So it'll be a good and kind of interesting to see, what Dallas is bringing. I think Dallas is kind of in a unique position where they kind of hold the cards to their own fate.
Yeah. They've got all the games in hand. So,
and then, for me, the next one that I look at is I'd love for the Sharks to put the fear of death into Edmonton and come and, win a 4-1 game at home and get some good mojo back at home. I feel like the tank has kind of been an easy place to play, and again, I'd like to see now the Sharks start to send messages for next season. You're not going to be pushed around. You're not going to get pushed around in your own division. You're not going to let superstars walk all over you. And I think that Calgary game, we kind of saw that a little bit, and I don't want to repeat of that going into next week. Any thoughts on the next 2 games, Ian?
I don't even know who they're playing next.
Dallas is next, and then Edmonton is after that.
Dallas and Edmonton. I mean, yeah, Dallas is going to be tough, right? Like, obviously, the problem with the Sharks now is they have nothing to play for. In reality, like, they have nothing to play for at this point. But a lot of the teams that they are going to play, like the East is settled, but the West, there's a lot that's going to come down to probably the final game of the season to figure out who's going to lock down these last spots. Yeah. Dallas and Edmonton are both, fighting for their playoff lives. I think Dallas has the inside track. They have the games in hand to get, so obviously they've got a really good record considering the amount of games in hand they have on the other teams. So, so even though you have games in hand, though, you're not in a position to just piss those points away. Yeah. So I think Dallas is going to come. They're going to play the Sharks really, really hard. And then Edmonton, who knows which Edmonton team's going to show up to play San Jose? That's the question, right?
Yeah.
Because we've seen Edmonton have really good games, and then we see Edmonton get just completely schooled by Calgary.
Yeah.
Edmonton's a team that I'm surprised didn't make a call to the Sharks, said, "Hey, I see you got Kaapo Kakinen. How's that James Reimer guy?
How's that James Reimer doing these guys?" Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
like I don't understand how they are going to go into the playoffs with the goaltending they have. I don't understand, man. I don't get it. But hey, it is what it is, right? So like again, these teams have stuff to play for. These teams are in a absolute dogfight to stay in the playoff race, right? Like Vegas is a point behind Edmonton.
Oh, I know, and it's just, it really is a
Or two,
dogfight.
where I'm not reading this right. Am I? 3 points? Sorry, 3 points behind Edmonton.
3 points
But
behind Edmonton, but
but
yeah, I get the
exactly
sentiment.
right. Like
Yeah,
it's that's no by no means is that Pacific third seed sewn up, and even the second seed. I mean, Edmonton's only 3 points behind LA. Like the only one who's running away with it is Calgary.
right.
Two
Right.
through
Calgary is
wild
just,
card, jump ball.
yeah. I mean, I think to me, Ian, and maybe a preview of your picks coming up in the playoffs, but I don't see how it can't be Calgary and Colorado at this point in the season, Western Conference Finals, or at least what would that be, semis, right? That at the end of division play. I mean, it's those two look like they're on a collision course for each other. They really do.
Yeah, I mean, so the Sharks they're gonna have the work cut out for them because again, like they can play the spoiler, but like again, a lot of these teams that they're gonna come up and play are gonna have much more to play for than them.
Yeah,
It'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, and again, I think that's why I've set my expectations now, and I think, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, I think you should take the moral victories out of what you can from this season. Start looking at prospects, start looking at the game within the game, because quite frankly, if you're just looking at that scoreboard, you're going to depress yourselves quite a bit. And for me, at least, I'm looking for the growth here. So we'll go into these next few games. We'll see how the Sharks end up doing. Again, there'll be a Joe Pavelski sighting on Saturday, and then we'll get the game against Edmonton, and then we'll go into Calgary. So, with all that being said, if you have not already, please like and subscribe. Also, send us some comments. I know I did talk about this last show, but we are checking out for comments, and we want to see them going into the next show. We're not doing reach around, wrap around anymore. So what we're replacing that with is your comments section. So
Yeah.
it's got to be in comments, in the line comments, not in the chat comments. So that means you got to come back after everybody else has done their ranting, and then you get to have the last word. So just think about it that way. If not, check us out across all of the different platforms. In case you missed us, check us out on the Apple Podcast Store, on the Google Play Store, of course, the YouTube Rewind. You've got the SoundCloud, you got Spotify, TuneIn, iHeartRadio. I mean, it's just, we're everywhere, people. And of course, all of that and more, tealtownusa.com. Ian, thank you so much for shotgunning this with me, and always a pleasure talking hockey with you. So we'll get Puck Guy up straight and getting those smelling salts back in his nose. But in the meantime, keep it real, keep it teal, keep it real, Teal. I'm at Eric Landy, and he's at Ian Blogs Hockey. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you after the next one.